Welcome to Session 5, Ministerial Finance and Reporting of The Real Stuff. Glad that you have tuned in for this special video. Ministerial finance and reporting, very important. Not as exciting perhaps as baby dedications or weddings, whatever, but this is very important. This is dealing with personal accountability and recognizing how to do the correct things in the correct order. As a minister with license, you now do monthly reporting to the conference. Before, with a local church minister license, that was just that you reported to your pastor, tithed into your local church. Now, with minister's license, you will be tithing into the conference. You become a member of the conference. You're no longer a member of the local church. You don't vote in elections there or anything. You're a member of the conference. And when we have conference sessions, you vote there. So reporting and ministerial finance, very important parts of being a minister, especially licensed and ordained ministers. So you have a number of papers that were included with this video. Hope you have got those printed out. I'm going to refer to those as we move along today. First, Minister's Monthly Report. One of the responsibilities of a licensed minister is to complete a minister's monthly report. Monthly. I know that seems like a lot maybe to some people, but every month just do it. In fact, I will tell you what I always do, and I fill these out also. I complete one every month. I actually go ahead and put my name, address, everything on it, fill in certain amounts, this part over here, because this might change as you go along. But this could be done, and then you copy those, that's already ready to go for you. Then you put in your income and the tithe, if you're going to do Dollar Sunday, if you're a part of the life insurance, the CLIP program, if you give to missionaries, missions projects, those things, that all goes over here. And then at the bottom part is really about your continuing education and your ministerial activity. Continuing education activity, you are to do 24 units, CEUs, continuing education units every year. 24, sorry. So 24 of those. Now, you can do an event such as a training day. And as you are watching these, the total hours would be, I believe it's going to be around 5 or 6 hours. You would have 5 or 6 of those CEUs that you could claim. You would put it as an event and that you had watched those. If you go to a training day with us, Equip, you do 5 hours worth of training, that's 5 CEUs. If you watch a particular video that is dealing with ministers, dealing with ministerial ethics, whatever that might be, if it's a 1-hour session, you would write what it is and do 1. Also, you can read. We try to give titles of books that are really good for, we believe, that are good for ministers. And so you can put your title of the book, and for every 100 pages that you read, that's 1 CEU. It really ends up being 2 CEUs a month is really all that you're doing in a 12-month period. That's not a lot, and that'll be a great help to you as a minister. And then the ministry activity, sermons preached, lessons taught, visitation. These are important things to be able to document and know that you're doing it. It's a way to kind of hold yourself accountable, but also to let us know what you're doing. We want to see that our ministers are active in being a part of their community and the church. Funerals, weddings, and then new members, conversions, sanctified, Holy Spirit baptized, water baptismal. Any of those, that's just good information for you for the future and also for your annual report that we'll talk about in a moment. And then finally, progress report. Sometimes people will put prayer requests there or maybe let me know what's going on. I read every one of these reports from every licensed and ordained minister every month. When those come in, scanned, put in your file, and then the paper copy comes to me. It goes onto my desk, and I'm able to read all of this. This is an important monthly report from you. I mentioned the annual report. That is what this page is. It says Minister's Official Annual Report for the year ending, and then it'll give the date. These are sent out I believe in the at the 1st of December, end of November every year, so that you can prepare that for the end of the year. It also gives, again, your name, address, all of those things, keeping that current for us. If you will keep a copy of your monthly report, it'll be very simple to be able to pull all those together and complete what your annual report would be. This is important because this kind of information goes to the national office. If you've been a local church minister licensed person, an individual that had that credential, then this was done annually. Your pastor had to sign off on this to show the activity that you had done. That's the difference between being local church minister license and a licensed minister. Next, let's look at some of the things that happen with you when you are dealing, if you're a pastor. And not everyone is going to be a pastor that is going to have a minister's license, but that's all right. You still need to know some of these things, and if you are going to be a pastor, it's good to have this information prepared for you and that you are ready to know a little bit about what's going to be happening, especially with a church secretary doing these things. The local church statistical and financial reports, very important. This is actually given in a CD or in a flash drive to churches so that the secretary, those individuals who are completing these types of reports on a monthly basis and an annual basis would be able to have this program in their computer. Actually, the interesting thing is when you start putting in the information, it starts documenting it and it adds it up, does all of those things for you. It's a very good program that's been developed for New Horizons Ministries. This being done, it gives all of the information about the local church tithe, world missions, things like that. Family ministries, girls ministries, women's ministries. The next page, and there's 4 pages of this if you're looking on with me. And then you have the church financial report, like your beginning balance, and then what was brought in, what you've done. And the idea behind this is just a documentation to kind of keep everyone prepared. There have been times that we've had to go back and help a church because there were issues with not being able to understand perhaps where some of the money went, or that, wait, that doesn't make any sense. We should have more money or less money, whatever it is. We're able to bring these up and make sure that we can help a local church. If you're a pastor, invaluable to you. Then global outreach offerings or world missions designated support, people to people. Family ministries area, how many are in Bible studies, how many are in the morning worship, how many on Sunday evening, children's church, nursery, all those things. This helps us because we need this documentation to be able to send to the national office. And then finally, a local church personnel listing. This gives all of those individuals that are in positions in your church. This is important to keep this updated for us. We try to make sure that with email addresses, we're able to get information out to those leaders in your local church. So if you're a pastor, very, very important. One of the next things is a document that helps you that if you're doing a cash reimbursement or a check request, those kinds of things, or travel log. Sometimes as pastors, I know for myself, even as superintendent, but when I was a pastor, being able to keep track of the mileage that I had done on church business was a good opportunity. Sometimes also within your the pastoral compensation package, you may be given the opportunity of turning in mileage reimbursement to the church. That would be a benefit to you. So the cash reimbursement voucher, again, this is on a program, and once you put the information in, it can add it up itself, but also it's very simple for you to be able to do that if you wanted just to print it out, write in the amounts, and add them up. There is a part here for mileage, and it changes every year according to the IRS allowance. Whatever they allow, that would be the amount that you would need to include, all right? And it talks about the reimbursements. Your travel log is a wonderful way for you to keep track of who you visit, where you go, the amount of miles that you did if you're going to be asking for a mileage reimbursement. And finally, let's say that you need to purchase something, or maybe that you are going to be giving a check to a guest speaker, whatever the case is. We also have these available, a check request form. And this check request form would help you or anyone in the church to be able to work through requesting a check from the church secretary treasurer. These are, again, these types of things are in the package that we provide to every church. So as a pastor, as a minister, this would be helpful to you. The next part is on a pastor's compensation package. It's a worksheet. If you're a pastor, you need to understand IRS regulations allow you to be able to have part of your compensation as housing. That could be rent. It could be you've purchased a home and it's your mortgage payment. There's all kinds of things that are within this that I'll get to in just a moment. But there are 4 pages, I think, within this. Pastor's compensation package, salary and housing for the year, housing allowance expenditure certification, and a request for housing allowance. All right? 4 pages, okay? 4. The pastor's compensation package, understand that you as a pastor, if you are a pastor, you have the opportunity and the privilege of completing this and presenting it to the church administrative council. The council sets the total compensation amount. Let's make this easy for ourselves. Let's say that they choose $20,000, all right? $20,000, you would do a compensation package showing if you're going to have insurance out of that, where we actually encourage churches to pay for their pastor's insurance, health insurance, beyond the salary part. But that, the housing, things like that, so that you would be able to put this down. An administrative council is not allowed, according to IRS regulations, an administrative council is not allowed to tell the pastor how much he or she may receive in a housing allowance. The pastor has the privilege of choosing an amount up to 50% of that compensation. 50% may be done for housing. The reason the pastor gets to make that decision and not the administrative council, the pastor is the one on his or her individual tax returns would have to prove that that housing allowance was actually used for housing. The church doesn't have to prove that. They just, the administrative council would just approve what the pastor has done, all right? So a compensation package worksheet gives idea of employment benefits, ministry-related expenses. Ministers who are employed at a church, you kind of have a dual idea here. You are self-employed for Social Security purposes, but you are employed by the church and you become an employee of the church. So you would receive a W-2. You do not receive 1099s. That is for those workers who are contracted. You are not contracted. You are an employee of the church if you're a pastor, associate pastor, minister of music, youth pastor, whatever. If you're paid by the church, that is a W-2, not a 1099, okay? So the compensation package. And then a request for the housing allowance. Pastors would be able, you as a licensed minister or ordained minister, you would be able to look at the amount and be able to figure out your house payments, down payment on personal residence, real estate taxes, insurance, repairs and upkeep, utilities, garbage, electric, gas, water, heat, alarm, cable, internet, lawn care. All of those things would be included, and then you would come up with a total amount that would be part of your housing allowance. A housing allowance that is given then, housing is not taxable. That is a non-tax. That's why you want to do that, because it comes off your taxable income. But you do still have to pay Social Security on the amount of the housing allowance, along with your wages. Then the salary and housing for the year, what would happen is you would submit your form to the administrative council, and then they would approve. Again, they can't change the amounts you have put. You are responsible to be able to prove that to the IRS if you're ever questioned or audited. They would then just go through, write in the things, and everyone would sign showing this was done in an administrative council meeting. This also must be done by December 31st of each year for the following year. So you have to do this at December 31st by that time in 1 year for it to count for the next year. Okay, you always do it a year in advance, essentially. And then the housing allowance expenditure certification. You're just saying, yes, this is true. What I have given is correct, and I understand what I'm allowed to be able to show as housing allowance. These are important parts of being a pastor, and as you are receiving a license, you're able to look at that, okay? A couple of things now about a local church, just to help you if you are a pastor. There's a payroll report form, and again, this is included in all the documents that are provided to a church secretary. That's what this is here. If you have someone who gives a non-cash donation, let's say that they give sound equipment or that they give floral arrangements, or they give certain things and they want to be able to show that as a charitable contribution. Here's how this works. On church letterhead, that's what this sheet will show you here, this form. You would put it on your church letterhead. If you don't have any, it's a good opportunity to make some up if you're a pastor. The non-cash donation, a letter of acknowledgement. You put the date, the name of the donor, address, and everything. You describe what the items are. Sound equipment, material for costumes, whatever the case is. If they've done something like that and they want to just give it, but they want to be able to have a cash donation idea, a non-cash donation showing. It's like doing it to Goodwill or Salvation Army or something like that. They can also do that to churches. Could be also a piece of equipment or something. The condition of the items, you would mark that, and how is it going to be used in the ministry. And then you would thank you for your contribution to the church, and then sincerely, and then what you would do is put the name of the church pastor, you as the pastor, or the secretary treasurer, whichever one. Notice on this, you do not give the amount. The church is not allowed to decide how much that donation is worth on a cash basis because it's a non-cash item. The individual would decide how much they feel that is worth, and again, they would have to prove that to the IRS if they chose that as a contribution for their tax purposes. Okay? And finally, this is a wonderful opportunity for every church to do what we consider a due diligence and good stewardship, making sure that as income is in the church, when you receive tithes and offerings on a Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, whatever that may be, you would have the date and note when the service took place and have 2 or more people. We recommend at least 2, and 3 is actually a good number. Would come in, separate checks, cash, the bills and the coins, and have all of that ready, and then you record it here, giving the amounts on the cash, and then you would be able to show the checks. We always recommend do a tape, if you've got that type of thing, or make sure it's all together, and then all of them are listed together. You don't have to list them separately here, but you need to show something of how the checks were put on. A lot of times people will turn the page over and they will list the name of the person and the amount so that they have those listed on this form. But of course, you'd be doing that on your computer so that you can give a year-end report and a year-end contribution to an individual. So this is done with every service. The idea behind it is you get all of the information, the total amounts. This will help you keep track of Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, other special times where you have contributions coming into the local church. And then it's counted and signed by. This gives you a documentation showing that one person did not handle cash without any type of supervision. It ends up being 2 or 3 being able to do that. It's a good opportunity to make sure that stewardship is done, and that if there are any questions about the amount of money coming in, you have at least 2 or 3 people that can say, I helped count that. Works really well. Then you keep those so that you have all those records by the end of the year, and it'll help you in the future if you ever have any questions. Well, that was a lot, wasn't it, in a short amount of time? Again, the idea was to try to just take you through an overview of ministerial finance. Remember, it's very important for us to be good stewards of the money that God has given to us. You should pay our taxes. When Jesus was questioned about that, he asked about the coin. So you give to Caesar what is Caesar, and to God what is God's. Well, here's how it works in my mind. God gets everything of mine. The government has certain things imposed. We pay our taxes to show that we are good citizens and good Christians. We do the right things. I believe that God blesses us when that happens. And then on tithing, it's very important. There are some who think, oh, well, we shouldn't have to tithe. That's an Old Testament. And yet Jesus very clearly said, I did not come to do away with the law, but to fulfill the law. And there's no place there that Jesus ever says, by the way, tithing is not important. Tithing doesn't take place anymore. Now you're in grace. I don't believe that that is there. And in fact, what a wonderful opportunity for us to tithe. My dad always said, well, son, this is what you need to think about. You either can have 90% blessed or 100% cursed. You decide. I don't know about you. I will always take 90% blessed. God has always supplied our need. Does that mean we had a big bank account every single month? Of course not. That's not the point. Actually, tithing is never about money. Tithing is about obedience. And our personal finance is for us to be able to show Christ to the world, doing the right things, obeying the law, doing what we claim that we will do, because you will be asked when you receive your license if you will tithe and report. When ministers at times tell me, oh, well, I don't have to do that. Yes, you said in front of the entire conference you would. So yes, you do. Tithe and report to the conference. It's an important part. It's a responsibility, but it is a privilege, because together we're able then to have those monies coming into the conference so the conference can provide training, the opportunity for pastors, me working with churches when a pulpit opens, all those kinds of things. And that is done because there are monies that come in through ministers' tithes, church tithes, and then offerings. I hope this has helped you and that you have learned a few things. So let's think about the 3 questions that you're to answer and bring with you to equip. 1, what did you learn in this session about the topic that you previously didn't know? Number 2, what are 2 things that you will use from this session in your ministry? I hope you'll use more than 2. There's a lot of things there to use. And then finally, so were there any points made in the session that maybe you didn't agree with? And what would your suggestion be to that? You can always make suggestions about the conference or how we do certain things. IRS, I'm sorry, if you don't agree with that, you'll have to take that up with the government. But you can say, well, what about this? Or should we add this to the report form? There's things like that. Glad to hear from you, all right? So those are the questions you need to answer. Bring those with you to equip. We'll be discussing all of these sessions in that class time there. Reminder, if you're a pastor, you're required to attend a training on church and ministerial finance and reporting once every 4 years. So this is kind of your beginning. But if you pastor a church, the pastor and the church secretary are required. Once in a 4-year period, you're required to receive training. We will provide those, and you just sign up, and then you come to those trainings. They're done in a group session so that we can help people, kind of remind them. Also, if you have someone new as a secretary or you are new as a pastor, it gives you the opportunity of sitting through the training, understanding exactly what your requirements are and your privileges are as a pastor. I hope you've enjoyed this. God bless you.